Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my A to Z of Queer Lit Part 9. If you've never seen one of these videos before, the purpose is to go through every letter of the alphabet and recommend a queer book to you that I have read and liked. Also, as you might have gleaned from the Part 9 aspect of this, I've done this 8 previous times and that playlist is linked down below. Because I value your time and I don't want this video to be too long, I'm not going to talk too much about each of these books, but I have talked about all of them previously in weekly entertainment wrap-ups, and that playlist is also linked down below. You should be able to also find this specific video where I talk about a specific book by typing in that book title and my name, and it should come up. I figured since the next round of the Queer Lit Readathon is almost upon us, this was a good time to put out this video. Enough preamble, let's get to the books. The first one being A is for the Foxhole Court by Nora Sakavic. Actually, this is a recommendation for the whole series because I read the trilogy in 1 week. Our main character plays this fictional sport called Exy, but he also has a troubled, dark past that he's trying to escape. So playing a sport that gets televised, not a great idea. Is he going to end up doing it anyway because of reasons? Yeah, he sure is. Do we get to learn a lot about his teammates along the way? Yeah, we do. B is for The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. This is a fantastic book that starts out making you think it's going to just be a really awkward morning where this girl has to go to drop off some money at a bank with her ex-boyfriend and her current girlfriend, and then it turns into a bank robbery situation. Unfortunately for those people taking over the bank, she has a very dark past and has some twists and turns that she can throw in to screw them up. I also recently found out that the rights to this have been sold, I believe, to Netflix, and I'm pretty sure that Millie Bobby Brown is going to be playing the lead character as well as executive producing. C is for Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This is a first in a duology. The second one is Of Ice and Shadows, and it is about 2 princesses falling in love. What else couldn't you want? Oh yeah, there's also magic. Next we have Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. This is about a girl who spent her summer away and ended up in a relationship with a girl, and then they kind of leave it open-ended at the end, and when she shows up to school the first day, that girl shows up to her school. That's not a thing that she expected to happen. And then they pretend that they don't know each other, which is super awkward. E is for Killing Jericho by Will Harker. This is a detective type series. It's not technically a detective series because our main character is no longer a detective. He used to be a police detective and got kicked off the force. He actually spent some time in jail for assaulting somebody who definitely deserved it, but also, you're the police, you should not be assaulting people while they're in custody. The interesting spin on this one is our main character actually comes from a traveling circus background, so he uses a lot of those perceptive skills in his detective work. This is very bloody, but very good. I also read the sequel recently, definitely recommend. F is for Fortune Favors the Dead by Stephen Spotswood. I didn't intend this to go right next to the last one and be another detective series, but here we are. This novel is set in 1945 and is from the perspective of Will Parker, who is the assistant to a famous lady detective. They get an honest-to-goodness lockroom mystery that they have to solve, and it is so much fun. I really enjoyed the way that this was written. I really want to read the rest of the series, but the first one is the only one that's out so far. For G, we have Anna on the Edge by A.J. Sass. This is a middle grade book about a character realizing they are non-binary. There's also figure skating. You know me, I love my queer sports books. This was a heck of a time. For H, we have Hench by Natalie Zinna Wolschatz. This one is about a henchwoman who gets injured in the line of duty and then just basically goes on a tirade against the superheroes in her town because they cause way more damage than they actually fix. For I, we have Even If We Break by Marieke Nijkamp. This is about a group of friends who are kind of drifting apart and they are going to a cabin in the woods to play their very final round of this role-playing game they've been playing together for 3 years. However, once they get there, things start going terribly, terribly awry. This not only has queer rep in more than one character, it has disability rep in more than one character. J is for The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. In this book, once cities become old enough, they gain a soul, but sometimes if the city is very, very large, that soul is spread out over several people. And that's exactly what happens with New York City. It gets 5 different people who become the souls of the 5 different boroughs, and then one other person becomes the soul of New York as a whole. And then of course weird things start happening. K is for The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I absolutely love this one. I like to tell people that if they know and like Welcome to Night Vale, they'll likely enjoy this as well because it has very similar vibes, but it's way more heavy on the whimsy. As well, there are children characters in here that I would just love to actually meet in person because they're all such interesting fleshed out characters. L is for Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. This one is another historical fiction set in San Francisco and has to do with the Chinese American experience of the city around the 50s and in the 60s. It also has to do with our main character lusting after a drag king, which I am here for. M is for Magic Mutant Nightmare Girl by Aaron Grammer. What would you do one day if you woke up with special powers and suddenly you had to work with this shadow organization to track down a mutant? Well, this book tells a story of what this particular person would do in that situation. N is for How to Write an Autobiographical Novel by Alexander Chee. This is an essay collection about the author growing up mixed race as well as queer, and has many different elements to it besides just talking about those, but because I'm trying to be brief in this, all I can say is there's an excellent essay about growing roses. O is for The Outrage by William Hussey, which just came out quite recently. This is a dystopian book set in the UK in a future not too far away from ours, where being queer has just been outlawed. And it's quite honestly terrifying, but also full of hope. P is for Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This one is interesting because we start out with a trio of girls at the beginning, and then there's a trio of girls after that, and then there's a trio of girls in the present that we're mostly following. In the beginning, there were these students who were rumored to be lovers that died, and in the present, somebody has written a book about this and it's being adapted into a movie. However, there are things going on with the production of the movie that might just be for publicity or might actually be real. Q is for One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This one is coming out very, very soon. You don't have to wait that much longer for it, and it is so fantastic. One Last Stop is Casey's second book, and it is a love letter to New York that has to do with time travel and finding this girl that you really fancy on the subway and realizing that not only can she not leave, she's not from this decade. R is for White Rabbit by Caleb Roehrig. This is a thrill of a ride. It all takes place in about the span of a day, and it is a murder mystery. It is bloody, there are twists and turns and danger, and I couldn't put it down. S is for Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is a bibliophilic fantasy about protecting libraries and library books at all costs. The queer character in this one is the love interest, but I wanted to make sure it made it on this list because bisexual men are heavily underrepresented. T is for Dead Endia, The Watcher's Test by Hamish Steele. This is a graphic novel that I read recently that has all sorts of really cool, interesting characters in it. It takes place in this amusement park, specifically in the haunted house section of the amusement park that also has a portal to different dimensions. It also gets a little wibbly wobbly when it comes to time travel, so watch out for that, but the characters were really what sold this for me. U is How I Paid for College, a novel of sex, theft, friendship, and musical theater by Mark Aceto. This one is set in the 80s and stars a boy who really wants to go to Juilliard, just like his best friend is going to Juilliard, but has to do some things along the way to make that happen. It turns out his dad just really doesn't want to pay for him to go to theater school, so he ends up having to steal some money, and there are many shenanigans that happen in this book. Also, since it's set in the 80s and was published in, I believe, the early 2000s, there is some homophobia in there as well, but it kinda gets resolved. V is for Intergalactic Travels, Poems from a Fugitive Alien by Alan Lopez. This is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a collection of poems that uses some mixed media in it. It has to do with the author's experience growing up brown and queer and indigenous, and it was really good. W is for The Summer of Everything by Julian Winters. This is all about a character who's in the gap summer between high school and going away to university. He works at a bookstore under his house, and he is finally going to ask out his best friend. Maybe. Hopefully. This is all about crushes and summer vibes and trying to save your local bookstore, and I just adore it. X is for The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune. This is all about this boy who writes self-insert fan fiction about his favorite superhero, somebody who actually exists in his city, and then, you know, they say that you should meet your heroes, but in this case, when you meet your heroes, it's just really awkward and hilarious to watch. Y is for Miss Meter by Anna Marie McLemore and Taylor K. Mejia. This is about two ex-best friends teaming back up to try to get one of them to win the Miss Meteor pageant. In one case, so a rival girl doesn't win it, and in the other case, so one of them doesn't return to the stars. Finally, Z is for Catfishing on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer. There are two point of view characters in this. The first one is Steph, and she and her mom have been on the run for as long as she can remember. And the other perspective is an AI that runs the only social media site that Steph is a part of. This is another book that's the first in its series, and I would be interested to see where it goes from that cliffhanger epilogue. And there you have it. There are 26 more queer books to put on your TBR. Have you read any of these? If so, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you prefer to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!